So they gave me the task to give a talk about Ibn Khaldun, which is, as I said, is beyond my capacity, because Ibn Khaldun, according to some scholars, they argue that it is the most brilliant scholar in the last 1,000 years in the Islamic world. So after Ghazali, there is no such brilliant scholar in the history of Islam. I would say that if we would have a couple of Ibn Khaldun today, probably the Muslim world would be much better. Even after studying Ibn Khaldun, I taught at Monash University for a while. I came to the conclusion that most of the Muslims' problem today, especially in the Muslim country, if they know Ibn Khaldun's principles, I think that they would be able to solve 50% of their problems in 5 to 10 years. Because whatever the principle he set, I think it is very important. I will talk briefly about his life and his notion of asabiyyah, group solidarity, also about the rise and fall of the nation, which is sometimes called the cycle of civilization. If you look at the historical context, at that time, as you know, the Mongol invasion destroyed most of the Muslim world. Also, in mid 14th century, Black Death in Europe, in Asia, in the Muslim world, killed almost 1/3 of the whole humanity. And Ibn Khaldun's family, according to himself, he's originally an Arab from Yemen, Hadramut, and according to some scholars, he is one of the descendants of one of the Sahaba. His name is Wa'il ibn Hujr, that who immigrated to Yemen after the death of the Prophet, and later the parents, maybe grandparents of Ibn Khaldun, they immigrated first to Tunisia, from there to Spain, and they stayed there for a while. Because of the expansion of Christianity, they could not stay in Seville. They returned to Tunisia, and then Ibn Khaldun was born in Tunisia. What we know, at the young age, he memorized the Quran, he studied fiqh, hadith, tafsir, kalam, all Islamic disciplines. But one of the, I think, the unique or brilliant dimension of Ibn Khaldun is to think always critically. That's why the Western scholars call him that he's the father of the history, because he look at the history, he bring a new dimension to the history science. Till Ibn Khaldun, in autumn you can walk awanus. So whatever they heard, they wrote. They did not analyze. They did not critical approach, because there were some historians paid by the royal families or by the kings, sultans, emirs. They will just dictate whatever they say. So Ibn Khaldun, he was critical to such type of historical science, and therefore he brought something new. As you know, Ghazali systematized, let me say, Sufism, Tasawwuf as an Islamic discipline. Also, Ibn Khaldun systematized actually the new history. We can call it, scientific history or academic history. Before him, it was based on the reports. So he took almost 8 times position in different government. They offered him, but it could not last longer. And the reason, because Ibn Khaldun was brilliant, and his ideas, he tried to persuade the kings, the leaders, the emirs, the bureaucrats, but they did not listen. So when they did not listen, they couldn't go with them. And so he traveled from a city to another city. He taught in Al-Azhar University. He went to even Spain. Even the king of Seville, a Christian king, offered him to be consultant, but he declined. So he's a brilliant mind. As I said, the brilliant mind are not recognized by their contemporaries. So at the age of 32, but before that he was even sentenced, because he was critical to the bureaucrats or some emirs, sentenced for 22 months. But on the other hand, I would say that almost all of his life, like he was sentenced because he could not express himself, his ideas, and to persuade others. That was also on one hand good because at the age of 32 he started writing his well-known Muqaddimah. In English it's called Prolegomena. Muqaddimah is a very interesting book. It's available, by the way, online. It was translated to English by Franz Rosenthal. However, the translation, I think, it should be done by a committee. When done by just one person, always it does not reflect as it is. Because Muqaddimah, every scholar, whether Mufassir, Muhaddis, theologian, Sufi, politicians, anthropologists, sociologists, psychologists, mathematician, astronomers, even dietitian, they can find something in Muqaddimah for themselves. So it's like an encyclopedia. But encyclopedia, I think, is based on the brilliant ideas, not something that just collect from here and there. His work is the products of contemplation, thinking for long term, and observing. He was, I think, not the scholar of just sit down and write. He was a scholar in the field. He would go, look at, observe, and then make decision. And think, contemplate about it, travel, and then make decision. For example, the theory he put for the climate, about the food, how affect the human nature, and still it is quite relevant. So the Muqaddimah consists about human society, about nomadic societies, savage people, states, spiritual and temporal powers, political ranks, sedentary societies, cities. As you know, I think we talk about Ibn Rushd, about al-Madinat al-Fadila, but Ibn Khaldun also, when he mentioned about the beauty of the Cairo, he uses very interesting sentence. And one thing that he's been criticized is about the evolution theory, by the way. I think he misunderstood probably, that's my personal view, it may not be correct, because and before him we see that in the Rumi's work also he says that I was a seed, I became a plant, then a plant was eaten by an animal, I became an animal, then animal is eaten by a human, they become a human, then human will die, I'll become in an angelic state. And so probably he misunderstood, that notion is a bit inclined towards a bit the evolution that later Charles Darwin, will argue it and bring to the what we call today in academy or in science. So the core principles of Ibn Khaldun, number one, he says that nomadic tribes conquer sedentary tribes because of the greater cohesiveness. Now, they are very united. And he says that, do not fight, do not use power against nomadic people. And you cannot defeat them. Why? Because they have nothing to lose. They are quite mobile. And they will sacrifice everything. He says that only you can use soft power. So the soft power, he says, it is necessary for a civilization. The soft power, it is necessary for a civilization. I remember I was in America when America invaded, occupied Iraq. There was a well-known professor at Harvard University. He wrote an article, later became a book, about the soft power issue. In his article, he argued that the cost of war, it will be more than $2 trillion to United States. So some politicians were teasing with him, how come, we calculated everything is going to be $250 billion. But he said that one point that you are missing, the soft power. We lost our soft power. To regain such soft power, he said we need 25 years and $2 trillion to be in a state during at the Clinton era. Yes, the soft power is very important for all civilization, for all the states. If, but in a smaller scale for a group, for a movement, in a larger scale for the state, and for a nation, for a civilization, soft power is the key, one of the important, I would say, that cornerstone of existing longer. When the civilization, they lost their soft power and they would decline. So soft power, according to Ibn Khaldun, is the key. He says that when the combination of the tribal society and religious drive is overwhelming, So when the religion and what we call the tribal values united, then it accelerates actually to establish a civilization. An example of the Sahaba. Yes, because Mecca, Medina, that time they were like a nomadic people. And when they become Muslim with the religion, in addition with their culture, and what we see that in 30 years' time, we see that the Muslims are in 3 continents. On one hand, in the middle of Russia, on the other hand, is almost close to Spain. How come that? How that could happen? And even still is not been approved. But even there are some argument. I did a bit of research. I came across by a professor at Harvard who died 30 years ago. The name of the book is Saga America. You can look at it. He says that Muslims actually arrived in America in the 8th century, in the mid of 8th century, in around 750, 756. And because then also in the 9th and 10th century, they found some gold money that belonged to during time of Harun al-Rashid. It's not just 1, 2, 3, a lot of money belonged to the Islamic civilization. When they were digging, making a road to Boston about in late 19th century. So anyway, Ibn Khaldun, he says that when the nomadic people establish a state, which is a civilization, initially, they are quite good, quite working hard, united, but gradually they become rich. When they become rich, they have a luxury lifestyle. And he says that luxury corrupts the society, and they become lazy. And then gradually, civilization decline. So he made lifespan for about 125 years for a civilization. About 125 years. He says that civilization is like a human being. Exactly like a human being. As human, till age of 40 is always developed. After age of 40, gradually, slow down and gradually then die. So he says that the failure of historians. First of all, he says that partisanship blinkers the mind. If someone just look at totally bias, we see in third world countries, in developing countries, someone is stick a party. I remember once 2 aged people, they were going to the city. On their way, one of them was belonged to the Democrat Party, other one was belonged to the Republican Party. Both of them, they had beards. Both of them, they were over age 65. So they had fighting while they were traveling to the city. One of them was left-wing, other one was like a right-wing, or what you call conservative or democratic, whatever. So that such partisanship makes people blind. They cannot find what's right, what's wrong. And second, he says that ideas are accepted too readily without criticism, without investigation. And third one, he says that the failure to understand what was the intention. So they did not approach critically what was the intention of that war or event or whatever happened. And also excessive trust in one source. Even in hadith, if your hadith become mutawatir, become authentic, at least we need 3 sources. So the scholar would go one city, find out the chain of narration, find the hadith, they will go to another city, find the another chain, go to another city, another chain. So then they will say that this hadith is authentic. 3 authentic sources, including all chains, are reliable. He says the same thing similar for the history. If you just go one source, you will not find the truth. Therefore, Ibn Khaldun says, historians should look at the different sources, analyze it critically, and then come to the conclusion. He mentions a lot about royal authorities. He says that when the royal authority claims all glory for itself and goes in for luxury, and then their state, their nation, their civilization begins decline and later will die. So therefore, when we look at we can say how he come to this conclusion, because if you look at the life of the Prophet, life of the Sahaba, life of the great people, they never took all such claim for themselves. They always say the people did it, or Allah, with help of Allah, it is done. The other theory is about the Asabiyyah, group feeling. He says that Asabiyyah, group solidarity or consciousness, is core notion, and although it was condemned by the Prophet, Asabiyyah is like racism or nationalism or negative nationalism, but his approaches, I would say, that is a positive nationalism. When Asabiyyah, when group solidarity or tribal solidarity is allocated in a proper way, it can be helpful. But when it's been used for that I'm better than you in a racist way, then it becomes harmful to society, and it will become a disaster for the social harmony. He says that Asabiyyah, that it's not just for the Muslims, as well as it's for the non-Muslim too. So that notion is not just for the Muslims, as well as it's for the non-Muslim. He says that Asabiyyah carries people to the power, but also contains the seed for fall of a group. Yes, Asabiyyah group solidarity, it will take you to power. That group gradually, will control the state maybe, but also it has a seed that can cause the declining or collapsing of the nation or the state or group. So it has both, the Asabiyyah. When you become too much stick to Asabiyyah, maybe for a time it could be helpful, but later, because if you are not inclusive in a society, and it will affect the social harmony. And again, he says, for example, the revolt must never happen against internally, he says, one of his principles. And as I said, if the Muslim leader would read the Ibn Khaldun, listen to him, probably there wouldn't be Syria or today or other countries. I don't know, I'm not following the news. So the point that he says that internal conflict or revolt is not applicable, is not good. And in addition, he says that sometimes some people do it. Asabiyyah can replace the religion, which we see during the Umayyah period. The Umayyah, the group solidarity or tribes solidarity was coming for the religion. Even for a while, in the history of Islam, the Arabs, they were the rulers. The others, they were bureaucrats, scholars, traders, businessmen, and so on, called Mawali. And he gives example in different ethnic groups, Bedouin, Turks, Mongols, and so on. So he says that, another important point, when the state relies on evil, it's impossible to continue. They do some tricky things. Am I? Okay. I think, when the state does evil things or rely on evil things, whatever the state is, we can give many examples today. I think probably number one is the Muslim world. Probably also will come second. I don't know. I can't make any judgment. And then it's impossible to continue. And he says that moral standards essential for a state. And this is preserved by the principle of Sharia or Islamic law. Its goal is to provide highest good for its subjects, not just for a group, for an elite, for bureaucrats. It should include all subjects. Because he mentions Umar radiallahu anhu's view that justice is the foundation of a society. And if there is no justice, then equal justice to everyone in the society, and then there cannot be social harmony. And he says again, it's very interesting, unique, there is no Muslim leader or bureaucrats applying such principles. When I say leader, there could be religious leaders. I'm talking about the politics. He says that those who are in the ruling family or in running country or state, they must not have trade, must not do any trade. And because even if they act accurately, still in the eyes of the people, it will be negative. Therefore, they must avoid the trade and business, the rulers. And he gives the example of the early caliphs. I was reading Umar bin Abdul Aziz's life. I came across some gift was brought to his court, but that gift actually was sent, I think, from one city, probably from Egypt, to the previous caliph. When previous caliph passed away, so Umar bin Abdulaziz took the position. Probably first or second day, the gift arrives. Among that gift, there was also some perfume, attar. When the gift comes to his office, of course, they were very beautiful smelling. Tried that, he closed his nose. He says, take it away. Why? Because even he did not want to get the benefit of the beautiful smelling of the perfume. He says that can be bribed. Can you imagine? That's why Umar bin Abdullah is called first Mujaddid, actually. In 2.5 years, he brought peace, harmony, and to the Muslim world. When you read his life, how then is important that, because he was a governor, he was rich, he gave away everything, he stopped every kind of business when he became a caliph. So he says that, again, social harmony in communities is essential to avoid anarchy. He says that deep respect for stability. Respect is necessary if you would like to have social harmony. Respect, from everyone to every group, especially the rulers. They should respect every individual in the society. He is also the father of economy, by the way. I was in my office, I think a couple of months ago. A master student came from Maturidi University. She told me that today our lecture said that we taught Ibn Khaldun, we wouldn't have today the Western economy. I was surprised. I did a bit of research before, actually, when I was teaching at Monash University about Ibn Khaldun. His theory has been applied, if I tell you that the Reserve Bank of America, Australia, UK, France, Germany, they are applying his principle. Not totally, but they adopted to themselves. Because he says that as long as the productivity is growing, the future of the state is safe. When the productivity is declining, then state also is declining. And he says that the government should not intervene to produce something. Because the bureaucrats, they cannot understand this. But let the businessman, so make it private. Someone can call this capitalism. But no, he says, he also makes control. It should be observed by the state. Or, for example, he says, even the monetary fund, they should be independent, not rely on the government. When it's rely on government, when the government intervenes, it will affect negatively to the economy. So what's the government responsibility? Number one, it says, a firm establishment of private property rights and freedom of enterprise. For a good economy, he says. Rule of law. I was told that by an Egyptian, if you would like to open even a bakery, you have to go to 50, probably, department to get permission. For each department, I hope you don't mind, you have to give some bribe. Am I right? Yes. So when in such state, how you can expect that the economic development? No, here we can do on internet. No need to even go to the office. He says that rule of law and reliable judicial system for the establishment of the justice. The security of peace and the security of trade routes. I was reading about the minority fiqh a week ago also. One of the scholars says that wherever there is security, that country is Muslim country. Doesn't matter if the whole of the population is even non-Muslims. Wherever there is no security, it's not Darul Islam. It's not the Muslim country. Because Islam, as you know, means peace. It's coming from whom? As-Salam, the source of peace, the name of Allah. Through him, Jibreel alayhi salam. To whom? Muhammad alayhi salam. So that's why Islam flourishes in a peaceful society. Wherever there is peace, some scholars call that state as Darul Islam. Wherever there is no peace, they say it's not Darul Islam. Interesting. I did not know personally till I read that articles. This is, by the way, not the view of contemporary scholars, it's the view of classical period scholars. It's interesting. So it says that low taxation in order to increase employment, production, and revenues. Yes. Less bureaucracy. I gave the example. I used to get just my ID in Turkey. It took 3 days for me. Go to that department, go there, bring this document, go do this, do this. To get a license would take probably 3 to 4 days. Sometimes I didn't, but people were paying bribe to get that. So she has a less bureaucracy and much smaller, efficient army. Australia has 56,000 soldiers. Turkey has, I think, 900,000. The Australian economy is three times, probably 2 times stronger than Turkey. So if you just feed these 900,000 people, you know, and also you are avoiding them to work, to be productive. Yeah. And also the money which you pay for the weapons, and useless weapons. Yeah. He says, no government involvement in trade, production, and commercial, as I mentioned, commercial affairs, no price fixing by the government. No price fixing. Yeah. A rule that does not give monopoly power to anyone in the market, but also have control as well. So bring everyone to bring their goods to the market, have competition. Don't give just one company to import all cars and sell it in Australia. Give different options to different companies. They can import, so compete with each other. So who is applying this? Again, stable monetary policy and independent monetary authority. Independent monetary authority. So the head of Reserve Bank should not be assigned by the government or whoever the power there, you know, the executive or the board members, whatever. A larger population, a larger market for a greater specialization, a creative education system for independent thinking and behavior. For independent thinking and behavior. You know, I remember when I was young, I look at our books, almost 1/3 was about Atatürk. Even the book related to religion. And one day, I took an Australian to Turkey. You know, I don't mean that I'm against him or this, just let me express this. I took him everywhere. He said, you know, wherever I go, the picture of Atatürk. You don't have any other great historical figures? And look at the money, all money is about the picture of Atatürk. Don't you have any great other people in your history? So I think, you know, he says that it's interesting that, you know, independent thinking, critical thinking. If you are already brainwashed with something that it cannot work, cannot be developed. And finally, also he says behavior as well. Finally, the collective responsibility and the internal desire to establish a just system to encourage good deeds and prevent wrongs. Collective personality, not just government. You know, NGOs, let's say in Muslim countries, all mosques, unions, parliament, you know, every individuals or groups should have a collective personality to do good. Let me say, if you have Australia, Clean Australia Day, if you just leave the government do it, what they can do. If they just have law, it's not going to fly. The best way is to have collective personality, allocate people, everyone, to share, to do this. Then it will become successful. So this is also important. So if I conclude my talk about Ibn Khaldun, as I said, he says that soft power is necessary for civilizations. You know why the British or UK today is the most strongest power in the world? Because of soft power. You look at the Japanese economy, it's the second or third in the world, I don't know, probably fourth now. But compared with the UK economy, it's huge. But Japan has no soft power. Same almost for Germany on one hand. So what's the soft power? Because a long time ago, they opened schools throughout the world. They educate people. The people do business. They learn their language. And they teach. They do trade. And that becomes a soft power. So civilization and its well-being depends on the efforts and productivity of its people. If the people are productive, do not worry, your future is bright. If the people are not productive, there's a risk. So productivity is not just goods, by the way. It's knowledge, it is different kind of service, it is, spirituality, it is academia, it is science, technology, and everything. And he says, injustice leads to end of one civilization and allows another civilization or society to take its place. So civilization, while one is dying, other one is being established. This is the kind of like a cycle of civilization theory, which is first time used by Ibn Khaldun. So Ibn Khaldun is a great sociologist, historian, statesman, economist, even a jurist, because he was chief judge in Egypt in Maliki court for a long time. Was a brilliant man, and he also suffered a lot in his lifetime. But definitely, his works is available by the way online. You can click it, find Muqaddimah. He wrote a lot about different topics, different issues. He is a multidisciplinary scholar, and that's why he's a very brilliant. The theory he made it about the food, about the climate, about, still all of them are relevant for our modern day, about economy as well. Well, thank you so much.